Hey guys, it's Laura from the Crown Point Community Library, and today I thought I would show you a really nifty technique, super easy to do your own printing on fabrics or possibly even on some kind of fun paper. So what we call this is screen printing. It's a basic way of like transferring maybe a picture that you've drawn or maybe something that you found on the internet to a piece of fabric or possibly even homemade paper or something like that. We usually do at the Winfield Library have a program where you can come in a couple of times in a couple of weeks, and we teach you how to traditionally print on a screen print with emulsion and screen ink. But since we can't do that, I thought it would be kind of fun to show you how to do a really cool, simple version of it with maybe some things you have lying around the house, or if you don't, they'd be really cheap and easy to acquire. So I thought this would be kind of a cool way to kind of help you get a little crafty at home and try something new. There's a whole world of screen printing out there that you can kind of fall into. It's quite a rabbit hole. And once you have some basic ideas of how it works, you can really try a bunch of cool different styles. You can layer screen prints on top of each other. It gets really fun. So let me show you some basics and what you're gonna need. And then maybe you can show me your work when you're finished with it. Okay, so some of the things that I found that are easy to acquire, that you can acquire to do this craft are, you can find an embroidery hoop. This is a wooden one. You can get a plastic one, it doesn't matter. The smaller the size, the better because of the items that we'll be using. If you're looking to use a bigger one, then you start to get a little bit more complicated. So the smaller the embroidery hoop, the better. I have a tiny one here that's made out of plastic. I purchased this at a craft store. It was like 40 cents or maybe 60 cents, but I've already put my screen on it. But this is really simple, cheap. This is kind of the size I would say you could go with. I want to say it's like 8 inches, maybe a little bit bigger. But these two sizes are perfect. This is the wooden one. More than likely, if you're looking around your house, you're going to find a wooden one. So this is what I have. It has like a little cinch at the top. The other things you're going to need for this are, you're going to need a pair of scissors. You're going to need some nylons. So if you can find some used nylons, that would be great. Any color is fine. I would prefer just using a lighter color, so maybe a tan or a white. If you can't find this in your house or you don't have any lying around, you can go to like a CVS or a Walgreens and get one pretty cheaply. And you just need one pack because you're only going to use one sock. You're not going to use both. So you just need one of those. A Sharpie with a fine tip so that you can draw your picture on your screen. You're also going to need 2 brushes, one with a fine tip so that you can get into the tiny little corners of what you're going to be painting on, and maybe a little slightly bigger one so you can kind of cover some larger areas. The 2 things that I would suggest that you get one of would be Elmer's glue. This is a really quick version of a resist that we will be using for the screen print. As you can see with the one I showed you previously, what I did is I left open spots and then I covered up certain spots. And this part that I covered up is the part that you're going to be painting with. And so this right here can be either Elmer's glue or you can use Mod Podge. I prefer the Mod Podge because as you can see, this is kind of dirty. I've already printed with it once before. So I've laid my, my pigment or my color on top of here, my paint, and I've already used it. And so for me to be able to clean the paint off of this, I was able to rinse it real lightly underwater, and that's because this did not come out with the water. However, this might. So if you're looking for a single-use screen print and you're not going to change your colors, then I would suggest this, especially if you just have it lying around and you want to try it out. This would be a cool way to do it. But Mod Podge is the way to go if you want to keep your screen and keep using it, or maybe do different prints in different areas and different colors. So today I'm going to be working with the Mod Podge. So, and that's pretty cheap if you don't have it lying around. You could get this and the Mod Podge at the same time at the same store. It doesn't have to be fancy at all. So the other thing that I have done is I required some sort of plastic card, small plastic card. This is an old library card that is not being used. So I would suggest getting a little plastic card. You can use like reuse like an old credit card, or maybe like one of the cheap ones you get in the mail that don't actually work. I would not suggest using the library card that you're using for us at the moment, because you're going to want to use that to check books out. So don't use that one. But anything that you might have that might, if you have an old library card or old credit card, use that. So I've got that. Also, you're going to need to either draw or print out a simple illustration that you can put into your screen. So I've printed one out today. I've printed this one out. I think she's pretty cool. So I'm going to be tracing her onto my screen. So I printed her out so that I can just lay her underneath the screen and then trace her with my Sharpie. So you're welcome to draw your own picture. That would be super cool. I just didn't want to do that right now. The only other thing I would suggest is you have to have some sort of pigment. So depending on what you're going to be printing on is what's going to depend what kind of pigment you're going to be using or what kind of paint you're going to be using. I have fabric here that I want to print on. I have some bags that are pretty cool. And I also have a t-shirt, which more than likely I'll be using the t-shirt just for you guys. So if you're printing on fabric, you're going to want to use something that'll set in the fabric. And I would suggest like a very specific fabric paint, or you could use ink. I have like a Speedball ink from all the programs that we've done in the past, so I'm just going to use that. But yeah, I would definitely use something that will bind to the yarn or the fabric in the shirt or the bag or whatever you're going to be using that's fabric. If you're doing it on paper, if you're just going to be screen printing on paper or cardboard or something like that, you can use just plain old acrylic paint. Any acrylic paint would be fine. You want to make sure that the paint is a little bit thicker, so you know, shake it up really good, and just the basic acrylic paint would probably work out just fine. But the ink that I have is a little bit thicker and it's a little bit easier to work with because you're working on fabric, but I've seen people use acrylic paint and I've used acrylic paint and it works out fine. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to collect your things and then I'll show you how to get started. Okay, so we are going to put together our screens so that we can get into like the whole painting it and putting it on your fabric and things like that. So you're going to want to take your nylon and your embroidery hoop, and you're going to pop this thing open, and you're going to take your nylon and you're going to stretch it, which this one I've already kind of used. I have a sample already finished. You're going to stretch this nylon right over the top of this embroidery hoop. If you're using a wooden one, like you can tell here, it's kind of frayed. You can sand that down so it doesn't tear your nylon, because you want to keep your nylon pretty much in one piece. So you don't want any like holes in the nylon, huge holes in the nylon. So if you need to sand your wooden piece one down, you can. Or if you have like a plastic one like this one, you won't have to sand it, obviously. So just stretch your nylon over this inner core right here. And I'll show you how I did it. So I took this, let me open this up for you real quick. I just stretched the nylon right over the top of the inner core of the wooden embroidery hoop and made sure it was just kind of, you know, like with no creases or anything, and tried not to tear the nylon. And then I'm going to take my outer core or my outer frame, and I'm just going to kind of, you know, pull these nylon pieces so that they're nice, and on one side at least it's taut and it's nice and not wrinkled anywhere, because the wrinkles are going to give you like a hiccup in your print, and you don't want that. It doesn't, I mean, unless you're going for that style maybe, but you want it to be nice and taut. So I'm gonna tighten up this little screw at the top of the embroidery hoop nice and tight so that the nylon doesn't slip out, because the next part you want to make sure it's nice and tight. Let me get this stuff out of the way. So we'll just, that should be pretty good. And check the other side out. I do have a little bit of a run, but I think it'll be okay. Okay, so there we go. It's not fancy, but it'll work. So Now what we're gonna do, the scary part, is we're gonna cut this excess off because you're going to end up using this flat side. So the side that is flush to this frame that you can feel that doesn't, you want to like, you're going to use that for the outside of your picture. So we're going to flip it over, and where the nylon is kind of coming out of, we're going to cut that part off. So let's do that real quick. It's always kind of scary, but you'll be fine. I need better scissors. Okay, so as you can tell, I cut the feet and the top off the nylon. And I'm just gonna keep cutting around. So I'm gonna cut all around the edges. And remember, don't cut both, only cut one side. So I'm just gonna cut the one side. And this is where, when I said you needed it taut, this is where you're gonna need it taut, because once this like nylon recedes, it's gonna want to come out of here. So you wanna make sure that these two pieces are on nice and tight and are pressing that nylon together. So let's keep cutting around really quick. You can have the excess here, nobody cares, it'll work. Sometimes it's nice to have a little excess, because if you aren't as taut as you thought you were, you could like pull that excess a little bit, which I do sometimes, because I want it to be nice and clean. I want it to be a real clean screen print. So the more give you have in the nylon, the less of a clean picture you're gonna get. So I'm just kind of pulling at these edges like I told you I would. You don't necessarily have to. If you get it nice and taut in the beginning, you won't have to do this. But I do. I just kind of fiddle with it a little bit. It's nylon, so your screen print isn't going to be perfect. There is room for error here, so give yourself a break. Make sure you get, 2 pairs of nylon maybe, so that you could, if you mess up one, you could try it again. Just be patient. You'll get it. So be careful when you're pulling it, because you really don't want to give any runs. Do have like a little bit of a run, but that's okay. So what you're gonna find is one side is flat and the other side is, there's like a bit of a inside to it. So you'll see that you can kind of put your fingers inside there. So this flat side is the side that we're actually going to be laying down on whatever we're printing and pulling the ink through. So whatever we're doing, when I did this one, what I did is I painted on the inside of this. So I flipped this over, and the flat side I put down on my picture. So remember, I showed you this picture before. This is the picture I'm going to be using. So I'm gonna lay that down on my table, and then I'm going to take my screen and I'm gonna kind of like place it where I want her to be. I think I kind of just want her, I don't know if you can see it, right in the middle. I'm not going to be using this part. I'm just going to be doing her face. And so I'm going to lay her down on the table like this so that I can make my tracing. Or like I said, if you just want to like draw on the nylon, you totally can do that. I've seen some people do that and I'm really impressed. But I'm not going to do that today. So that's about it. I'm going to get started at tracing this picture. And you're going to want to kind of keep in mind that you're doing a resist. So with this one, I don't know if you can see it that well because there's like no background to it. Let's do it like this. Anywhere, so you can get like a dark piece of paper or a dark piece of fabric or something. And anywhere that you see the dark come through is where your ink is going to go. So it's going to be the opposite. So if you're doing words, you're going to want to maybe do them backwards, because when you print them, they're going to be backwards. So this one right here, I had to kind of remember, where is my ink going to go? Where do I want it to be resisted? So in this one, I made sure that I only painted, because the skull is white, I only painted where maybe the skull would shine through. So I painted on the skull here, and I painted like, I left where this line was open. You can do it the opposite way if you want to make it easier, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. Just fiddle with it and see which one works best for you. So I'm going to be copying her, and I will position my camera differently so you can see what I'm doing, and then I will move forward. So gather your materials, get it all set up, and let's do this together. So there you go. It was pretty easy and it's a lot of fun, and it kind of opens up new avenues for you to try different types of things. Maybe make your own wallpaper. You can make your own journal with your really cool fancy cover that you screen printed yourself, or just, you know, make your own cool shirts and bags and things like that. If you make something really cool and you want to show it off, then you can bring it into the Winfield Branch Library and we will display it. If you're not really into that, but you'd love to share a picture, go ahead and share a picture with us on our Crown Point Community Library Facebook page, and we would love to show it off and post it. Otherwise, I would say if you're looking for more virtual videos and you want to see what we have to offer, you can visit us at our regular page, www.crownpointlibrary.org, where we have posted a ton of cool virtual videos to our YouTube. So check us out, see what else we have. We have a lot of cooking videos, we have some cool family videos. We also have some story times and some science, awesome science and math curriculum kind of things. So check us out and see what other cool things that we can offer you. Take it easy.